It is February 2025. You are sitting in the Oval Office. In front of you is a man who has spent 3 years burying his people in a war against Russia. He has come to ask you for help. The cameras are rolling. The whole world is watching. And you point your finger at him and tell him he has no cards, that he is disrespectful and ungrateful, that he is gambling with World War III. Your vice president joins the attack. Did you ever say thank you? The Ukrainian tries to respond, but you silence him. The meeting is over. You throw him out of the White House. The lunch that had been prepared for the two delegations is left untouched. All of Europe comes out in defense of Zelensky. Russia celebrates. Medvedev writes that Zelensky got a slap in the Oval Office. And you do not feel a drop of remorse because in your mind, the one who asks is weak and weakness is punished. You learned that 70 years ago, at a table in Queens, from a father who taught you that the world is divided into winners and losers. You are Donald. You are 5 years old. You live in a 23-room mansion in Jamaica Estates, Queens. Your father is Fred Trump, a builder who made his fortune putting up thousands of cheap apartments in Brooklyn and Queens. Fred is not an affectionate father. Fred is a transactional father. In your house, love is not given, it is earned. Fred sits his 5 children down for dinner and tells them, "Be killers, be kings. In this world, there are winners and losers, and the Trumps are winners." There are no hugs afterward. There are performance evaluations. Your older brother Freddie is the firstborn, the natural favorite. But Freddie makes a mistake your father considers unforgivable. He wants to be an airline pilot. He wants to live his own life. Fred destroys him. He humiliates him at family gatherings in front of everyone. A pilot? To work as an airborne taxi driver? Freddie breaks. He starts drinking. You are 10 years old and you are watching your older brother fall apart. And that is when you learn the most important lesson of your life. Showing weakness is death. If you are vulnerable, they destroy you. If you show a crack, they force their way through it. That is what happened to Freddie. And you are not going to be Freddie. At 13, you are so aggressive and undisciplined that your father pulls you out of school and sends you to the New York Military Academy. Cadets wake up at 5:30, sleep in bunk beds, and instructors scream 10 centimeters from your face. A lot of boys cry the first week. You do not, because Fred Trump had already hardened you more than any military instructor ever could. Here you learn something else that stays with you forever. Hierarchy exists to be climbed, and the person at the top can humiliate the person at the bottom. It is the strong man's right. Freddie dies at 43. Alcoholism. You do not drink alcohol for the rest of your life. Not a glass of wine, not a beer. Not because of health, because of fear. Because you saw what weakness did to your brother and swore never to be him. And every time someone attacks you in public, every time someone questions your intelligence or your power, you are not responding to that person. You are responding to the ghost of a father who sat his children down at dinner and told them that losers are despised. You are 25. Your father gives you what you will later call a small loan of $1 million, which in reality is many more millions in guarantees, properties, and connections. But Fred is the king of Queens and Brooklyn. Cheap housing for working class people. You do not want that. You want Manhattan. Because Manhattan is where the elite is, and you need the elite to accept you. You build Trump Tower on 5th Avenue. 58 floors of marble and gold. Your name in giant letters on the facade. But Manhattan's elite ignore you. To them, you are the nouveau riche guy from Queens. A man with shiny suits and ties that are too long. The Kennedys do not invite you to dinner. Wall Street looks down on you. And this is where something takes shape that will define everything you do for the next 50 years. Resentment toward those who reject you. When 30 years later you attack the Washington elites and the corrupt press at a rally with 30,000 people, those people are going to go wild because they also feel rejected by the same people. But your motivation is not populism. It is personal revenge dressed up as politics. You open 3 casinos in Atlantic City. All 3 go bankrupt. You lose nearly $1 billion. Anyone else would have disappeared from the map. But you discover something that is going to change your life. It does not matter if the businesses fail as long as the personal brand survives. Trump Tower is still there. Your name is still on buildings. You learn that your name is the product, not the casinos, not the apartments, you. The banks stop lending you money. Wall Street considers you a joke. And instead of disappearing, you go to television. It is 2004. You are 58 years old. NBC puts you in charge of The Apprentice. 14 seasons. You're fired. 20 million people watch you every week. In real life, banks reject you. On television, you are infallible. You point at people and decide their future with 2 words. The audience does not see the man who lost $1 billion. They see a genius who never makes mistakes. And here you understand something that changes you forever. Perception is more powerful than reality. I'm the best negotiator. Nobody knows more than me. Is it true? It does not matter. You say it with such confidence that millions believe it, and those who do not still talk about it. Either way, the conversation is about you. Your chair in the apprentice boardroom is higher than the contestants' chairs. You look down, they look up. When years later you are in a presidential debate invading your opponent's personal space, walking behind her while she speaks, interrupting her mid-sentence, you are doing the same thing. Dominating physical space to make clear who is in charge. It is 2015. You come down an escalator in your own tower and announce your candidacy for president. In your first speech, you say that Mexican immigrants are rapists and criminals. Every analyst says it is the end of your political career before it even begins, and your poll numbers rise. You have just discovered something professional politicians have spent decades failing to understand. The 24-hour news cycle benefits you if you are willing to do what others will not. A normal politician weighs every word for hours. You fire off 40 tweets a day. 39 are noise. One is a bomb that dominates the conversation for 72 hours. You do not need people to love you. You need them to talk about you. Because attention is power. You destroy your Republican rivals in the primaries, but not with arguments, with nicknames. Little Marco, Lion Ted, Low Energy Jeb. Nobody in the United States remembers Jeb Bush's tax proposal. Everyone remembers that you called him low energy, and that Jeb stood there frozen, not knowing how to react. You are not debating policy. You are doing what you learned in military academy and at Fred Trump's dinner table. Find the other person's weakness and hammer it until it breaks. Every rival who has faced you makes the same mistake. They prepare facts, statistics, proposals. You give them a two-word nickname that sticks forever. If the rival stoops to responding, you win. If they do not respond, they look weak. The game is rigged in your favor from the first minute. You win the 2016 election, but governing does not work like The Apprentice. Judges block you. The press questions you. And every time someone contradicts you, you respond the same way. Attack, never defend, never apologize. Because at Fred's table, admitting a mistake meant becoming Freddy. You fire people at a pace with no precedent. 4 chiefs of staff in 4 years. Anyone who shows disagreement disappears. In an interview, they ask you whether you have ever been wrong. You say, nothing comes to mind. This is not simple arrogance. It is the armor you have been wearing since you were 5 years old. In 2020, COVID arrives. The one thing you cannot control with tweets or nicknames. Your instinct is to deny that it exists, because recognizing a problem is admitting you are not in control. You lose to Biden. You refuse to accept defeat. Not because you have evidence of fraud, because psychologically you cannot lose. Fred did not teach you how to lose. On January 6, 2021, your supporters stormed the Capitol. People die. According to multiple testimonies, you watch television from the White House and you are not horrified. You are fascinated. Those people are there because of you. For someone who learned that love is earned through domination, it is the ultimate validation. You run again in 2024 more aggressive than ever. The defeat of 2020 was the biggest wound of your life, and you need revenge. You sweep the primaries because your rivals still do not know how to face someone who does not play by the rules. You win the election. You become the first sitting president with a criminal conviction, and from day one, you govern exactly the way the pattern predicts. What happened with Zelensky in February 2025, you already saw at the beginning. You invite the president of a country at war into your home and humiliate him in front of the whole world. You shout at him, point your finger at him. Your vice president demands that he say thank you. You push aside the war maps. You throw him out without signing the agreement. Russia celebrates. Half the planet is scandalized. You do not care. You call a Bloomberg journalist a piglet on Air Force One when she asks you about Epstein. You call another one stupid. You say countries are kissing your ass to negotiate tariffs. You say Somalis are just walking around killing each other. These are not slips. They are technique. Every insult is a grenade that dominates the news cycle and keeps you at the center of the conversation. You put Elon Musk in charge of Doge to cut the federal government. For months, Musk fires tens of thousands of civil servants, shuts down entire agencies, and promises to save $2 trillion. But then Musk publicly criticizes your spending bill. He says it increases the deficit and undermines everything Doge tried to do. He clashes with members of your cabinet, and here something happens that reveals how your mind works. When Musk was useful to you, he was a genius. When he criticizes you, he stops being one. On television, you say, Dog is the monster that could come back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible? You threaten to investigate the government contracts of his companies. Tesla loses 14% on the stock market in a single day. Musk leaves in May 2025. Months later, in an interview, he admits it was only partially successful and that he would not do it again. The richest man in the world, the one who put $300 million into your campaign, turned into a disposable pawn. 260,000 officials pushed out of government, thousands rehired because they turned out to be necessary, and a report estimating that Doge generated more costs than it saved. But that is no longer your problem. Musk is gone. Next, you fire your own Attorney General, Pam Bondi, because she is not aggressive enough in investigating your political enemies. The woman you put there, who defended you in an impeachment, who swore total loyalty, stops being useful to you and disappears. In your world, loyalty is a one-way contract. You demand absolute loyalty, but you never return it. When the Supreme Court strikes down your tariffs by a 6-3 vote, you call the justices fools and lapdogs, including 3 whom you yourself put on that court. You do not distinguish between allies and enemies, only between people who obey you and people who do not. In January 2026, you capture Maduro in Venezuela with a nighttime military operation in Caracas. You launch the Shield of the Americas coalition. Your advisor, Stephen Miller, says on television that the cartels must be treated with the same brutality as Al-Qaeda. You threaten to send the American military into Mexico, and in March 2026, you attack Iran alongside Israel. You bomb nuclear facilities. You threaten to flatten the power plants if they do not open the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours. Iran closes the strait. Oil prices soar. Gasoline goes above $4 a gallon. The Dow Jones falls for a full month. Your own Republicans complain that the Pentagon has no exit plan. And 3 days after threatening to destroy Iran, suddenly you want to negotiate. At a rally in Memphis, you say that they want a deal and we're gonna get it, right before going to visit Elvis's house at Graceland. The turn is so abrupt that nobody knows whether you are really negotiating or improvising. But it does not matter. As long as they talk about you, you win. When your European allies refuse to take part because they consider the war illegal, you tell them to man up and take the strait, because the United States will no longer be there to help them. Meloni, your main ally in Europe, says the war is outside international law. You attack her anyway. You invoke a 1798 law to deport Venezuelan migrants to a prison in El Salvador without a judicial hearing. Latino communities all over the country stop going to work, stop taking their children to school. Only 5% of those detained had convictions for violent crimes. You send ICE agents to airports. Steve Bannon, your ally, suggests it is a rehearsal for deploying them at the polls in the November elections. You propose a law that eliminates mail-in voting, something you yourself have routinely done. When that is pointed out, you say your case is different because you have a day job in Washington. You are 79 years old. Your approval rating is 35%. Your economic approval is 31%, the lowest of your presidency. 2/3 of the country say your policies have made their economy worse. You are in the middle of a war with Iran that your own allies consider illegal. The Department of Homeland Security is partially shut down because there is no funding agreement. TSA agents at airports are working without pay. You threw out Musk, you threw out Bondi, you insulted the judges you yourself appointed, you attacked the allies who supported you, and you are still the boy from Queens who needs the whole world to talk about him. Every rally, every insult, every provocation, every war, every threat is the same mechanism as always. Generate attention, dominate the conversation, never show weakness. You have spent 50 years doing exactly the same thing. Only the stage changed. And what makes all of this so effective is that half the population sees itself in you. Not because they are bullies, but because they also feel rejected by the elites. They also feel that the system is rigged against them, and when they see you insulting a senator from Washington live on air, they feel that someone is finally saying what they would want to say. They do not care that you lie. They care that you fight. Because fighting is the opposite of being weak, and you promise them they would never be weak again. But a man who cannot admit a mistake, who cannot show vulnerability, who sees any disagreement as betrayal and any criticism as a declaration of war, is not leading a country. He is fighting a battle that started at a table in Queens 70 years ago against a father who told him the world is divided into winners and losers, and 330 million people are living inside that fight. That was the psychology behind Trump. Leave me in the comments which other leader you want me to analyze. See you.